Hello again. Welcome. Michael Pizzola here, welcoming you to part 2 of my 2011 Kentucky Derby value capping rant. This was only going to be one video. I get talking about racing and we go on and on. So I'm just going to pick up where I left off in the last part of the rant, which is we talked about, we're looking at the undercard at Churchill Downs on this coming Saturday, May 7th, 2011. And I'm going to recap the Derby for you. And if there's time, I'll show you how I go through looking at getting good value bets in a very quick way, looking at hundreds of races in the blink of an eye, as it were, using Blackmagic Ultimate Handicapper. So let's get right back to the undercard at Churchill Downs. In this race, the 7th race, I have the best horse right on top. 6-5 morning line. He's my best horse. Another one with a horse really gapped up there. The 11 Never Retreat. In the 9th, bunch of horses above random. At this first go through, Wizards and handicappers, I am looking for the easy stuff. In this turf race, my gosh, look at all those horses, and you see how high the odds start at 9-1. Not to say I won't find a race, not to say when I get there I won't see something on the board. Contrasts, that 6th race that we looked at with just a few horses above random and a nice gap there with the Kentucky Derby. I mean, look at all those horses above random. And, going further down, there's a horse second on the line, Justifier. That is 30-1, taking a big step up in class from Claiming. Might have to look at that again. And then we got a maiden race. Interesting, right? Why is that interesting? Well, the second horse down on the line is not too far off, 4-1, 5-1. Then there's a gap down to 7-1. And this horse is the fulcrum. And look at that. It's the only pattern in the race. What do I mean by pattern? It's a type 1, which means a horse that ran a relaxing race after a good race. Now let's take a look at Bonnaroo. And Bonnaroo finished second at a maiden special back 25th of March. And then finished 5th last time. At a decent price, I would look at that because all of the other horses that are above random are all the morning line favorites. And this horse is second on the line in a fulcrum, the only horse with a pattern. I'm going to mark that. By the 13th race, I'm telling you what's going to happen. The Kentucky Derby is the 11th race. People are going to be out of money, and they're going to be looking and diving to try to get back. They'll probably make one of these horses a favorite. I might have a play in, either the 6th or the 13th race. But usually my analysis is not much more complicated than that. When my analysis gets as complicated as this on the Kentucky Derby, and look at it, Arch, Brilliant Speed, Watch Me Go. Now, these are the top horses on the Blackmagic Ultimate Handicapper odds line. And, I make some notes because, hey, I'm a little bit of a fan too. So Watch Me Go, I noted that he gets Bejarano. Now, I know probably the names of 4 jockeys because I haven't made a study of it. But I do know he won the Tampa Bay Derby, and I do remember, because Blackmagic Ultimate Handicapper put Super Saver right on top, that Super Saver always also won the Tampa Bay Derby. So I'm going to be using that. I noted that Brilliant Speed had these huge third fractions. I noted that Stay Thirsty, that the blinkers came off because he had a bad race with the blinkers on last time, and he was a type 1, and he had a good workout at Churchill. I mean, the kind of things you read. Derby Kitten, kind of paired its numbers last time, and that huge third fraction just caught my eye. Now, honestly, if the race comes up sloppy and these horses get, like Brilliant Speed and Derby Kitten, get all that slop thrown in their face, and it's not conducive to closers, they're going to be up the track. However, at that kind of price, closing from the middle of the field, I'm looking at Derby Kitten. That's why I kind of see I've got like this little mind mapping program where I can move them around, and I do the same thing on my iPad so I can touch them and move them around. I know I need a life, but I would, and I do this on races sometimes when I really want to take them apart. But And the lesser horses I have here, I thought Shackleford had weak numbers. I thought Comet to the Top, who's going to be one of the speed horses, had weak numbers. Master of the Hounds, I don't know what that horse is going to do. As a matter of fact, I may need to save with that because he's only got one start in the United States. And so forth. It's really, really tricky. As far as the pace, Black Magic puts it as neutral and unknown. And here's why. If you look at acupressure, which is my way of seeing the races, we see Watch Me Go, which I don't know if it'd be out there, Decisive Moment, Uncle Mo perhaps, Comet to the Top, and we see a bunch of horses going for the lead. We also see Comet to the Top is a need to lead horse, doesn't get the lead, may not run so well, and then we've got a bunch of closers, by the way, including Derby Kitten, including Brilliant Speed. That's interesting. If we look at our speed points, look at all of that speed. Decisive Moment, Uncle Mo, Comet to the Top. Then a bunch of horses, Mucho Macho sold at. So now Churchill has been running towards the late side. I'm not going to have a whole bunch of track profiles on 1.25 mile races. In fact, even if we go back a number of months, but if I put it into like a 1 1/8 miles, let's say, and I put it fast, you'll notice that that energy expenditure is extremely late. So that's why I'm favoring horses like Derby Kitten if I don't have any evidence of off track. So I'll go to 1.16 miles and look. And yeah, and then I see very late as well. Now let's see. And this is great about Black Magic because let's say the track comes up muddy. I don't have races that are muddy. How about good? Well, I got a couple. And those are towards the late side as well. Late side being that energy at around 50. So, you know, there you have it. So it's a confusing race. I like a couple of the races a little bit from the undercard. The more I think about this race coming up towards the late side, I don't really know if it's going to go early or late. If it comes up wet, Churchill Downs could go either way, but if it comes up like good, muddy, so it's gluey, the late horses with brilliant speeds and especially Derby Kitten having you know, those big third fractions. We see Watch Me Go being another long shot possibility. So that's my take on the Derby. As I said, I'll probably have a win bet on Derby Kitten. Depending on prices, some small bets on Brilliant Speed, Watch Me Go. I'll have those hooked up with Arch, despite the post position. Either Midnight Interlude, Stay Thirsty, and depending on the odds, some savers with the logical horses dialed in. Uncle Mo, maybe even the 19 Nero. Now, in the few minutes we have left, I'd like to show you how I go through very quickly finding the races that I want to focus on. And I'm going to do this in real time. Let's say I'm going to take every track in North America. My gosh, 34 cards. I've already got Churchill, so I don't need that. I'm not going to take some of the tracks that I can't bet here in Vegas. Fairmont, they're not taking Fort Erie or Fort Pierre. And by the way, when you get Black Magic and sign up for the Wizards Forum, you get an unlimited data deal, which no one in the industry has like that. But I do it only with people that I'm working with because otherwise you can get really overwhelmed. Oh, I'm not going to take everything Sundowns and Sunray, which I can't bet. I can't bet Thistledowns and so forth. So I'm just going to look very, very quickly and just show you how, first of all, how fast Black Magic is. We hit OK and look. Oh, and by the way, those of you who computer savvy, I am working on a Mac. Black Magic is a Windows-only program. I happen to be running it on a Windows machine inside a Mac. If you don't know what that means, don't worry about it. You probably have a Windows machine, and not to worry. You don't need a Mac to run this. You just plain old Windows machine will do just fine. In that time that I was just talking to you about geeky stuff, look what's happened. It's downloaded 30 cards of races, and it's imported them out, and boom, it's done, and there's a whole list of them. I have 248 races to look at. And what do you do with that? First of all, you sort it by post time because you're going to want to know. Luckily, Black Magic has these things called portfolios. Now, my favorite is Heavy Pressure. I want to know where there are horses that are all bunched up on the front end and that maybe there's one or two closers that have a chance. Now, yes, I will take these races apart, but when I'm going through this at warp speed like this, you see down here in acupressure, I'm looking at one or two closers who are really right near the top of the line. And I'll know that when I see it. I mean, I'm just going to go through really quickly. There's one, but he's not close. There's nothing. One, but he's not close. 1 second on the line, 7-2, big deal. This is the way I would go through this, just looking. Ginny Jim right on top, 9-2, off a layoff. There's one there, 9 and 7, and they're not near the top. See, right now I'm just looking the 2 and the 6. Hold on. Delaware race 6, May 7th. Now, why did I notice this? Well, I noticed the 2 and the 6 are closers. They both look to be prices, 8-1 morning line. No other prices. Boy, if I can find something a little wrong with that one horse, I might have a bet on my hands. Let's take a look at it. Sure, you just win 2 allowance races. Look at that. Just won 2 allowance races. Now is dropping down to 25,000. Oh, maybe these were optional claimers? Don't love that. And right below that, I've got this Boot the Boss, who's a Type 1. Wins at 33,000. Again, another optional claimer. Okay. Then has a bad race. Loves to close. Sure, why not? I'll take a shot at that. The 5 horse, the morning line favorite, off a layoff and very early. And remember, in heavy pressure races, I'm looking for late races. Look at this other closer, the 2, making a nice little move. So, you know, I've got a couple of key horses in this race, the 6 and the 2, in the 6th at Delaware, which I will focus on. And I'll go just through like that. I've got little flaws. I'm not so sure about the 1. Will I use them in exotic? Sure. But that's the way that very, very quickly I can get to these. Now, you see how that Type 1 horse means a good race followed by a bad race, pretty much. There are some other parameters that not necessary for this discussion. But also on the 6 horse, a very interesting thing. This is a very late horse. Look what it does in its last race. Goes out a little early and then fades. Little change of running style. Now, that is what I call a pattern. There is a portfolio for single pattern horses, so that when you look above the line, there's only one pattern. So you see there's a Type 1 there. It's right on top. I'm looking at races after Churchill because everyone's going to be disappointed. Oh, well, look at this. Here's one that pops out. And how did I notice it? Well, 15-1, 20-1, and it's high up on my line, and it's got a Type 3 pattern, which means it comes off after a layoff and flashes a little speed. That speed won't be recognized by the public. The class move looks okay. Okay, there are all these portfolios in Black Magic, and I'll just go through, and in this I'll look for a horse in acupressure that's at the top. Here's Karen's Joy that's at the top at a chalky horse. That might be Rabbit Hash, but there's a strong horse on top of that. Here's a horse, Per Din Alice, in the 1st at Delaware, and Lone Early, and 35-1 contention, 15-1 morning line. Let's see what's on top of it. Here's a horse that just finished 3rd at 12,000 non-winners, 3, 10,000 non-winners, 3. Now it's dropping to 5. Don't like that. Sure, at a big enough price, why not? What's wrong with this horse? He looks like a pig, but he could get loose and go. I'm going to put a little mark next to that. This is where some of the money is. And then I've got a nice little list of my races. And these are the races. Again, I haven't decided whether I'm going to bet these or not, but some of them look like really good shots. So that's the way I go very, very quickly through the races and find some ability. It looks like a good little race, early return. Here, this 2 and the 6 is closers. Here, the Fulcrum, the 9, Bonnaroo, and so forth. And Grand Casa in there. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you have a great time on Derby Day. And whatever you do, don't force your bets, but let the bet make you. Michael Pizzola saying, see you soon.